Okay, let's see. Let's see. Good morning. I am, as you know, constantly trying to get my software to do what I needed to do. and today is no different. How are you today? How are you? I am, yes, I am just trying to get everything all worked out here so that I guess I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so I'm getting a warning message from YouTube. So, good morning. I am going to greet you anyway on this amazingly wonderful day. It is interesting because here in Cleveland there is a soft, I don't even want to call it a rain, but it's a, well, yeah, maybe I spoke too soon because it looks like it's coming down about now. But it's quiet, which is unusual for right now. Usually since we started March, all it's been so windy. When they say it comes in like a lion, right? It's been so windy and so yucky. We've had sunshine for the last couple of days, which is just good for my soul. And then to turn around and have this snow rain mix is rather interesting, but it is what it is. And I don't know about you, but sometimes we talk about we talk sometimes about weather as if it is a metaphor for our lives, and that idea of a metaphor. What's a metaphor? Um, you know, I read a book, I think, one time a while back ago, that this guy says he never met a four he didn't like. And it just is funny to me. Joseph Campbell, when he started to talk about the difference between like different types of story, like a parable versus a metaphor versus an analogy, all of those are very different. And sometimes either we miss or forget the varying differences. Um, we create like different things like similes, like we try to associate those different things. And it would be, I think it's always nice to kind of review things because it gives us a better indication um, of of how things work. I will say not just how things work, but it gives us a better indication of some of the things that we read. So, like, I love how when Carl Jung talks about symbolism, symbology, how a lot of times we take things too literally. When we were told that they ate from, a bit of apple, it never said that there was an apple, in the Garden of Eden. And you wonder about it because you wonder, well, is that a place where you even have that type of stuff? And so we equate it to a certain thing, but is it really? So I find those things fascinating. So when I look out at the weather and it does what it does, do I let it tell me what kind of day I'm going to have, or do I show up and tell it what kind of day am I going to have? So if all my days are good and very good, if all of them are, then while I observe it, I am not letting it modify me or my mood. And I hope that I'm not the only one. Yeah, it is time for a shampoo, and I know it. And I a lot of times compensate for for that. And but I have yoga this weekend, and so I'm thinking I'm going to be sweating in this stuff anyway. So let me just hold off until Sunday evening, and that's not even assured. So anyway, yeah, it is all of these things. If we allow them to show us something, whatever it may be, to recognize that at the end of the day, ultimately, you are always at choice on how you see things. So you get to decide: is this going to be a good day, or is it going to be a bad day, a tumultuous day? I say that you should make it a fabulous day. It's Friday, right? And so on Fridays, we proclaim it as good and very good. So I would just, I would just recommend that you not look to conditions to set the tone of how things are going for you. Um, what I know is, and here I'm going to speak to this because I like to be truthful and all of that good stuff, the authentic me. What I know is that a lot of times we are influenced by conditions. There are things that happen that come up, and just like uh, um, just so much stuff. What do we identify with? What do we um yeah, what do we identify with? How are we showing up in the world? And so okay, let me because I'm just having, I don't know what I'm having today. I don't know what I am having today. Um You know, my birthday is coming up, right? You know, it is in 9 days. I'm on a countdown. Well, it's easy to say because my birthday is the 19th and today is the 10th. So it's 9 days away. And this thing, Facebook, creates all of these things that, are constantly telling me to create a fundraiser for my birthday. And I heard this woman, she was talking about how people put the fundraisers up there to raise money for a nonprofit when they themselves, don't have what they need. And so, I just wonder about this, you know, because what I do know is that when you raise money for a nonprofit, it takes a couple of months too for that money that people donate to organizations to come through. So while I do in fact have a nonprofit myself, Agape Renaissance is a nonprofit. When people give money to that, it doesn't reach me. So I just, I've learned my lesson. And while I have given money before to organizations that I belong to, some of the organizations, and in fact the church, I just refuse to do that with this thing anymore. So y'all will see my Cash App thing is on my thing, and Facebook can stop sending me all of these messages about um, donating to a nonprofit. I'm the doggone nonprofit. What the heck? I don't know. Does that bug y'all? I just wonder about, because it's just really interesting to me. It's really interesting to me. So, attention, they say, is the new commodity. Attention. And so, when people are able to grab attention, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or wherever, that's the new commodity. And so, TikTok, and we see all of them interwoven together. And where it used to be that I could scroll through my timeline and maybe, not see as many advertisements as I do, I now see advertisements everywhere, sponsorships everywhere. So it's all good. It's all good, and yeah, it's it's the way that the world is and works right now. And so I just, there is always for me this questioning about about all of it. It's the questioning about all of it and whether or not it's the track that I choose to be on. They say even mystics have to eat, which is so true. I get that. Um, but to what extent, where do you put it on your priority scale of what you're doing? So for me, I've got these constantly in this awareness mode of what my priorities are. So anyway, it's Friday. Friday! And I'm not going to trip on stuff on today. I am excited about the weekend and all that it brings. And so I hope that you are too. It's really interesting. I have been on this hiatus from television because the Lent group that I am in asked that everybody participate in what they call a fast. And the fast is to do without something. And so then you get to make a choice as to what you are doing without. So my choice for this week was to do without television. And so what I've been doing in the evening time is, well, usually I'm busy right up through the time to go to bed, but I've been listening to books on, which is something that I normally do anyway, but usually only during the course of the day. So lately I have been on just listening to a couple of different books. One of which I was supposed to go to I was supposed to go to something and found out that I totally missed the event. I just, but I read the book just so I could go to the event and be aware of what was going on. And then when I go back to check the date, I don't know how I missed it, but it didn't necessarily, my telephone didn't tell me. So the telephone is the new walking secretary that we depend on for information. And when it doesn't, when I don't have my reminders set up correctly, properly, then sometimes it just, things don't go right. Friday is your day, Sarika. Good morning to you. How are you, dear? Oh my goodness, I am sending love and blessings all your way and everybody's way today, and just grateful, grateful, grateful to be here. It comes to me that um, there is so much that um, I've done this year that was not this year as in 2023, but when you think about from birthday to birthday, that I have had these start stops on. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to bring things to completion, or I like to finish things. A friend of mine used to say something like, a job once begun, how does that go? I don't even remember, but he said it was something that his mother used to tell him all the time about completing tasks. And I've always said that when you walk away from things without finishing them, it's kind of like leaving the refrigerator door open. You have energy that is dissipating. And so there has been a concerted effort on my part to try to bring to a close some of the things that I have been working on over this last year. In these last few days before my birthday. So I've been trying to, like, close this off, tie this off, look at this and see if this was something that I totally wanted to do without, or whatever. And then to think and take on things that are going to be new beginnings. Um, and sometimes what we do, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes what we do is we get ourselves all worked up and upset over things that, you know we could have let go of. We could have honestly said to ourselves, I didn't want to do that in the first place. I mean, truth be told. And so it's nice to be in a spirit of honesty with yourself, if with nobody else, about what it is that you desire for yourself. One of the things that I read in a book one time is that this idea that, you know, I didn't listen to my radio show yesterday. That's bizarre. What was I doing that I didn't listen to my radio show? I'm sorry. I just realized that I didn't even tune into my own radio show. Anyway, so one of the things that is really bizarre is that sometimes when we commit to things that we didn't really want to do in the first place, and then we try to keep making ourselves do something that we don't want to do, we aren't showing up in our honesty and our integrity, because we're already doing something that we don't desire to do. So at what age do we get to say or choose what it is that we want to do? You know, and for me, that's been a just getting real with myself about those things. I'm not saying anything about the radio show. That's not. I looked down and happened to see some of my notes from the radio show, and just realized that I didn't listen in, and I normally listen to my own show. That's if nothing else, to make sure that it's there. I told Dr. Brown yesterday, because he does the show with me. I told Dr. Brown yesterday that I was driving on Sunday, and I get back in the car and I hear my own voice over the air, and I'm like listening, like, well, first I heard his voice and then I heard my own. And I'm like, hey, that's my show. It's on a Sunday afternoon during drive time. What, church drive time anyway. And I was like, so like, oh my gosh, it's on. and so, um, and so yes, I listened to it. I probably listened to each show a number of times, because I listen to it. I'm present when I'm doing it. Then I edit it, and then I listen to it again when it airs. I listen to it, several times during the editing process, and then when it airs. And so when I just realized I hadn't listened to it, maybe I need to go back and listen to it again, because that's one of the things that I've been accustomed to doing. Let me read for you this morning's thing, because for some reason I'm feeling a little off center. So I want to read for you and share with you the daily guide for today. Um, and this is, remember, these are written by Reverend Michael Gott. And it is out of the Science of Mind magazine, the daily guides. And for today, which is Friday, it says everyone is creative. And the first quote that he takes is from Uriah Mountain Dreamer. And the quote goes like it says, where does the energy want to go now? Where does the energy want to go now? I ask this question, I sit with the sense of the life force within. Now, let me just put a pause right there because I want to talk about this for a minute. I have a habit of talking about energy to people, and what I realize is that there are so many that are unconscious about energy. I talked to, I don't know. There's so many places that I want to go with this for the moment. I talk to Dr. Brown every week, and we talk about chi sometimes, and this thing called life force energy. We talk about it in the sense of how it is in reality, that we each are made up of literally trillions of cells that are come together and to participate as us. We see ourselves as solid masses. However, in actuality, we know that all of these cells are, they come together to participate in being our skin or being our blood or white blood cells or, red blood cells or, whether it is the organs or whatever. We've got all of these, within us that participate as us. Now, when you think about that, in from that kind of perspective, you might realize that you are not mostly physical, but really mostly energetic forces being held together as you. Now, many of you have seen the idea that that we are energetic projections of something. It would be wonderful, like say for instance, if we if we could like energetically, if we don't like what we see, then sort of manipulate the energy around into creating something else that we find more palatable to our system, like abracadabra, and then shift or morph into something else. But that's not quite the way that it works. And for the most part, I think that most of us come here perfectly as we are supposed to be. I can remember thinking when I was younger that who I was, this person called me, that, mind you, I did not like when I was younger. When I was trying to figure out, this beingness, there was a part of me that wanted to, kind of shift into something else. And I thought that this person that I was like a cross to bear. If you could imagine that, and I think that I say it's part of adolescence. I don't know that anybody goes through adolescence feeling their own perfection, really loving themselves. When we're in adolescence, there is a part of us that, and I think this is just natural, that rejects. We're in a mode of rejecting because we're in a mode of separating. So we need to individuate, find our own identity away from our parents. And so in finding our own identity, it means that we need to separate from them. And sometimes that process looks like judging, loathing, self loathing. All of that stuff becomes a part of the process. And so when people are in that mode, I'm saying, hey, they're probably right on time with that, right? They could be just where they're supposed to be because it's part of the process of what we're to go through. So I went through all of that at one time, and I used to think that I was the ugly duckling of my family. Like the middle child, was the one that didn't belong. I was the mistake. I didn't have any talent. I didn't, you know, when you looked at things that were handed out, I got the short end of the stick. My hair was nappy. My nose was big. I had all of these, you know, things about myself that I was just totally rejecting. Now, a person from the outside looking in doesn't recognize that. They don't see that. But you, whoever it is that's living through that, sometimes we know it, and what we do is we're putting on a facade or a show for those that may be listening or looking, because how dare we not accept ourselves as we are? So we all go through this at some point. And sometimes what happens is as we keep growing, as we keep maturing, we get to a place of self-acceptance, which is what happened for me. But it wasn't an easy route. I mean, the route that I took was extremely difficult. And this coming into myself was extremely difficult. And one of the things that I know was is that, you know, it had to have, there was some treacherous stuff that happened in order to get me there. Um, a lot of times we talk about the bad things that happen in our life, right? And we look at them, and sometimes what happens is we fall down in the midst of things. So for example, I tell people about, you know, I was raped as a teenager. And you know, to for many of us that is a big fall. It's a bam, I hit a rock, I fell over, and I'm laying in the mud on my face kind of event. And so there is this thing of I can wallow in it for a while, which you know it's understandable. You wallow in it for a while, and then for me it's like, okay, I begin to get up. And what I noticed some years later was when I was out doing a training, as a matter of fact, what I noticed is that I was walking around and I was still wearing the mud. I wore it like, like somebody might wear somebody else's blood, or like you might streak your face or your body with mud, and go around and saying, can't you see I'm muddy, right? Can't you see, I'm damaged, or can't you see this, that, or the other about me? And while I was in that space, you know, I could recognize that it served to be the justification for the disconnectedness, for the hardness, for the judgments that I had about myself. It served its purpose. But when I no longer wanted that mud to be my definition, I had to figure out how to wash it off of me. And so that becomes a choice that all of us make. Some people still walk around with the crustiness of life still on them, whether it's on your front or just on your back, whether it is just, dried off and it's dried up and clipping off, it's still there until we make a decision to actually wash that stuff off, to do whatever it takes so that that no longer is our stuff. It's no longer your thing. So I had work to do. And so because of that, and thankfully because of what I went through, I started doing the work. So when when people look at me like, which I still get sometimes. It's funny, these groups that we get into. People will still look at me and be like, "Who she thinks she is?" Right? Grown folks, we still in that thing. Who she know everything, or she this, or whatever that may be. And when I say that it is a part of or a result of what I've been through, what I've grown through, and what I'm still growing through, right? It's my growth. And so, do I apologize for it? No, it just is what it is. Do I try to hide it or try to say, oh, I'm just. No, I do this because it elevates, it lifts me. It is my way of of getting beyond that. So when I talk about this energetic being, it's because I'm spending time within the awareness of who I am and what I've gone through. And so it's not just that, when I look at me and my life, it's not that I look at it and I think about it in a static term, like it's just this. I'm looking beyond this to see that who I am is also a an amalgamation. Is the word I want to use? Of what has come before me. That I am part of an ancestral line that has been through some stuff. So if I am at the leading edge of that, I know that there is work to do to heal what is behind me, but also what is to come. Now, what does that mean? That means that I need to show up. That means I need to do the work. I need to recognize that, that it's more than just what meets the eye. That each and every one of us is more than what meets the eye. Each and every one of us is energy in motion. That, I know, energy in motion, we say emotion. Each one of us is that. And so when we think about it in terms of, energetically who we are, when we think about it in terms of energetically how are we showing up, this is all a part of it's all a part of it. And the fact that somebody else may not notice it doesn't mean that it's not real. It means that sometimes what we're looking at is very different. So there are a lot of people who never look inward. There are a lot of people who never think about, not just their ancestors, they don't even think about what their parents have been through, that then showed up in their life to indicate what, how they've dealt with them. So, say for instance, if we just get mad at our parents, or sometimes we idolize our parents for the things that they did, not recognizing that, some of us will say, we said this as kids, right? I'll remind you, ooh, I ain't gonna never be like that when I grow up, right? I ain't gonna never. If I ever have kids, I'm going to. And then what we do is we turn around, and the answer that we give or how we show up is in reference to, if not exactly, it's in reference to what we've been through. Sometimes we fall into the same patterns, and sometimes we take those patterns and we decide, you know what, I'm gonna break this pattern here, right? So if I don't know about you, but if you got a whooping, maybe you decided, you know what, I'm not gonna whoop my kids. But because you actually have two parents, you're bringing the best of what they experienced along with the best of what or the worst of what you've experienced, and now you got two people together, hopefully making decisions. Sometimes not. Sometimes one can't deal with the decisions the other makes, and that becomes the friction. But you've got these forces that are coming together. And so all of this energetically becomes a part of who we are. And if we just look at ourselves and yeah, if we just look at ourselves as static without recognizing the past as well as the call of the future, as well as what we're going through right now, if we don't look at that, then we're missing something. Good morning, Sandra, dear. How are you? Then we're missing a whole lot. And so, it becomes this thing of what was the choices that we're going to make. So when people talk about this energy, um, all of this energetic, you are an energy being held together out of agreement by trillions of cells that show up as you, participating as you, and the lensing of your consciousness in this moment means that you get to be the decision maker in whatever it is that you're going through. And when I say the decision maker, sometimes we don't even realize all of what goes into the decisions we make. When I'm talking to Dr. Brown, and we're talking about the our microbial biome, that the all of the stuff that participates in our body as us. When we talk about that, sometimes we think the choices that we're making is based on what it is that we desire. And sometimes it's saying, hey, I need. Like, can you imagine something saying, I need sugar? It's telling you, I need sugar. I need sunlight. Send me sunlight. I got sales that are saying, send me sunshine. Hey, we need some exercise. Hey, we need water down here. And so I'm picking up on that. Just like I say, I pick up on things when people tune into this thing. Energetically, sometimes when I'm on here and I'm on a certain thing, all of a sudden I feel myself veering in another direction because energetically something is now pulling me someplace else. I am always fascinated by the way that energy just engages. Or can you imagine that, like I just said, good morning to Sandra, right? Can you imagine that Sandra's great grandmother was like, oh, she's tuning into that girl again. Okay, let me go over where she is because there's something that I need Sandra to know. There's something that I need her to say to Sandra, right? Or it could be the same with anybody, right? So if I am saying that I'm open and receptive to the way that energy moves me and that I'm going to say what it is that I'm hearing, then it becomes this thing of spirit just kind of pulling me in this direction or that and saying, hey, look, this is a open vessel. This is something we've been trying to get across. And buenos dias. Thank you. So it's something that has been trying to come across. And so as it comes across, let me be the one that then shares that information. I don't know. It's not even like there's a conscious willingness on my part, but it's what happens. It's what happens, and it's beautiful. So instead of me getting caught up on getting caught up on all of this stuff, let me just allow myself to be used. And so I think that if all of us at certain point would stop with all the freaking editing we do. That's what we do, right? We sit there, we go to a meeting and we sit there in the meeting and we think to ourselves, I'm not going to say that. I'm not gonna say that. We question, does this sound intelligent? Does this sound like something I should say? Would this be rocking the boat? This person, that person, all these people won't like that if I say that. We sit there and we bite our tongues. I don't do that anymore. I think that if it comes to me, it's supposed to come to me. Yeah, Sandra said that is so funny. I've been deep in studying genealogy work. So, I, I am, I feel like there's a tug of war because going on right now with me because, while I may peek at it. I want to take a deep dive, and then I think, okay, I gotta finish this. I gotta work on that. But Maddie is here with me, and I know that I need to deeper dive into what it is that she is, the energy that she's bringing to me. So, so I get that, we don't always know what it is that is driving us, but there is something driving us. If it's nothing more than how do I show up fully in this moment, right? I constantly say I am, I have surpassed the age that my mother did, right? I've gone past that. And when I think about that, I think to myself, what if my mother had lived to be my age? What would I want for her? Right? Do you ever think about that? Maybe your mothers are still around, or maybe your parents are still around, but maybe it's a grandparent. But do you ever think about what you would want for them? What would happy feel like, or what would happy be like for somebody? I mean, because a lot of times we have ancestors that were totally on the grind, that were totally on the grind. Sometimes we look and we think, oh, this person has a fabulous life, but they had a hard life before they had a fabulous life, or they get too old to enjoy any of life. It's just like, okay, they're hanging on for her benefits or something. Where do people get to have, a, you know, the life that they've dreamed of? And I want it to be through me. Like, let me live a life. Oh my gosh, let me live a life that is, that if I've got people looking through and witnessing and, all of that stuff, I don't want no drama. I don't want drama. Drama ain't fun. Me buying the latest car or the newest clothes ain't fun. That's not what I call my definition of fun anyway. So when I think about if I've got a posse that's traveling with me, how do I live a life that is worthy of, like, if I had a plate of food in front of me that's worthy of digging in? How do I live a life that is, a smorgasbord of goodness? Oh, and that's what I think. And this just is like, I don't know where this came from, but this was like, as I say it, it's like, whoa, it just so freaking true. I'm gonna hit this because I don't know what that other screen has done, but it is so true. Like, if you were to think about a life that is worthy of somebody, when I used to hear people saying, "Oh, I wish I was a fly on the wall when that happened," right? So, guess what? People are. People are. Just because you don't see them doesn't mean that they're not there. what is worthy of their attention? Would your life cause them to go to sleep? Would they just be sitting there like, when is she gonna get it? When is she gonna see? When is she? You know, I don't know, but I I wanna. That's what I'm endeavoring. You know, like what does juicy look like? What does juicy feel like? Seem like? I don't know, but I know what it ain't. I know that walking around miserable with mud all over me, all over my face, all over my being, I know it ain't that. So, let me go back and read this thing because that first quote just sent me off there. Um, I tell you, I could take a detour. I could take a detour, as y'all know. I could take a detour into the deep end, right? So where does energy want to go now? Is the question that Araya Mountain Dreamer asked. I asked this question, and then I sit with the sense of the life force within. Where does it want to go now? How juicy? How juicy? How juicy? And then from Ernest Holmes' Creative Mind and Success, he says, believe that your word goes forth into real creative power, which at once takes it up and begins to operate upon it. Real creative power. Now, ask yourself, if you know that you have creative power, what are you creating? What are you creating that you don't want to create? Are you creating sickness in your body? Are you creating sickness in your finances? Are you creating sickness in your home and your family life? Are you creating sickness, or are you thinking up? Are you thinking thoughts of victory? Are you thinking thoughts of transformation? Are you thinking thoughts that serve the world, or are you focused in on what could go wrong? I will tell you that sometimes we create the very thing that we do not want to experience by focusing in on it. So it becomes this thing of, now let's change our vision. Let's change around how we see things, right? So for me, when I was talking about the mud, the dirt, the falling in, the that whole thing, um, if now I see that I'm carrying around the residuals of the past that I no longer want, then it becomes a decision to shake off that old, to wash off that old, and to then do something new, something that I do want to do. So that was when I made a choice to be different, to live differently, right? Let me read what this guy says. Because I could go there. I could go and dwell there, but I've probably already said what I'm going to say. So here's what Reverend Michael Gott says: creativity is natural and innate to all people. All people. In Science of Mind, he said, we understand that all of our thoughts are creating with the law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect. What's causal? Your thinking is causal. Let me read what he says. In unity teaching, this is sometimes called the law of mind action. I like this because it reminds me that before any action in my life, there is a thought in my mind. When you're having a thought, what is that thought? We are not a victim of our own thinking unless we are unaware of our thinking, right? When you know that your thoughts are creative, you know that I don't know about you, but just like a eraser board, you can go up and say, oh, I don't like that thought. I don't like that thought. And erase that thought. And then put in what you do want. And I tell you, I know that it is hard because there is a thing that keeps going back and back and back. Yes, karma, right? But karma is. I want to talk about karma a little differently. because what, hey, good morning, Walker. Hey. Good, good. Because karma is a lot of times the result of the actions you make, not just your thinking. Karma is what did I set in motion, and it's an action some most of the time, right? Not just your thoughts, but thoughts act in the same kind of way. But say, for instance, not to get biblical on you, but Job said in the Bible, what I fear has come upon me. So our thoughts pull to us the experiences. They pull to us things, and so it's our thinking that creates. Let me finish reading what dude said, because y'all know I could. It took me a year to do a book, so y'all know I could sit here and every other line he says got something to say about it. Um, he says, okay, so let me read this one again. I like this because it reminds me that before any action in my life, there is a thought in my mind. Everything started with a thought. Truthfully, all people are always creating their experience or reality through their thinking. Oh, I gotta stop there for a second. So what you think about, you bring about. I want to say that, but here's the thing: how you think about a thing. Um, Sometimes we um, here's what we do. We give meaning to the things that we see. You ever notice that? Like something happens and we might see it off at a distance. Like I may see somebody and um here's okay. Let me just use an innocuous example. I may see somebody pick up a thing that I just gave them. Say, for instance, it's a resume or a proposal or something like that, and they look at it and they throw it down. Right now, our minds are meaning-making machines. We give meaning to that action, thinking that it's saying something about, like, I might think that it says something about me, right? Like, oh, she didn't want to read my resume, or she didn't like the proposal I gave her. We might create a whole story behind that. And when she picked it up, it could be, I don't even have on my glasses. Or, I, I, I don't, this is, I can't read that, right? It could be any number of things that have absolutely nothing to do with you. Sometimes people say, it's not about you. And we don't hear that because all we know is all we've ever been. It's the way we think. We bring meaning to something. So when it says, truthfully, people are always creating their experiences of reality through their thinking. Sometimes your thinking is just focused in on you and not in reality what a person may also be thinking or what is going on with somebody else. Thinking is an action. Thinking is an action. It's an activity. So here I'm back in reading his things. Some use this creative power in the service of life and love. Some use it for the destruction and limitation, which is so true, right? How can I take what you got so that I can have more? That's what and destructive more. Oh my goodness, this I want to interview this guy that I know who was talking about when he felt he had hit rock bottom, and he said that his reactions was because he didn't know any other way to react, or he didn't have anything else available to him at the time, so he acted in a way that embarrassed him, and then in his embarrassment he just kept going spiraling down instead of trying to figure out how to come up. Sometimes we do that, right? Sometimes we try to make it like it's not about us, and and go there. So some use it for destruction and limitations, and I guess each of us does our share of both, right? Who among us hasn't encountered a relationship or a potential relationship and do something to sabotage even that? As if we don't think that we are worthy of the love or the attention. I mean, we've got so many ways in which nobody has to come along and take your good from you. You're so quick to throw it away because you don't believe that you deserve it. Somehow, this idea, like I used earlier, that example of the mud, somehow these images that we have of ourselves of less than or not enough or whatever, we are so busy trying to cover over that. Oh my goodness. We're so busy trying to cover over that we mess things up. We sabotage, right? For whatever reason. And so when I'm saying this whole thing about healing our past, whew, yeah, it not only is doable, right? But it actually takes efforting. It doesn't, you just can't. A lot of times, what we try to do is we just try to put some darn paint on stuff. Paint will fix anything. Well, if it's rotted wood up underneath it, it's still rotted wood. It's not. Yeah, the guy around the corner had all of his aluminum siding taken off of his house, and I was just looking at the darn house like, oh, that's what that house looked like before. And it was, whatever was on there, and then he put something else up over top of it. So they took down one thing, exposing the stuff, and then they put up new stuff on top of it. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, so often that's what we do in our lives. We are busy putting up something, covering up stuff without necessarily fixing anything. And so at some point we gotta back up. We gotta back up and say, what would repair look like? What would repair look like? And while we have an opportunity too, I talk about this all the time too, because my mother is gone. My mother is gone from her body. And so I know that there is repair work that needed to be, that needed to happen because she was angry. As a matter of fact, that's probably why she didn't make it to the age that I am now. She was angry. She had a smoldering anger in her that needed to come up for healing and release. But if we've got an idea that there's a universe that only what's solid, only what's a noun, a person, place, or thing that we can see with our eyes, that has that has mass, what has weight and takes up space. If that's the only thing that we are focused in on, and we think that there's no work to be done, then we get, that becomes too part of the issue, because we're not willing to work on a relationship. But you got to sit an empty chair in front of you sometime, even if the person is alive. Sit an empty chair in front of you and talk to them as if they are actually there. Be like, Mama, can you come sit down for a moment? Grandma, can you come sit down for a moment? Dad, can you listen to me for just a moment? Cause there's something that I need to understand, or something I need to get off of my chest. Can we have a moment? And then just doing that work, that one-on-one work, with an empty chair, knowing that that they can still hear us, because there is an energetic presence that it didn't go anywhere. I can feel it. Anyway, let me get back to this. But and some of y'all will be like, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. right? Because there's a part of us that don't want to forgive it. There's a part of us that, the shit we've been through is so much a part of us that we don't want to let that go. And there's a house over not too far from me. I think I told y'all about this before because I took pictures of it. And on this house, I wanna pull it up, but I can't pull it up on my phone right now. But there's this house where this guy, somebody scratched into the paint. Like, here is where I was broken. You know, just scratched it on big letters on the house. Here is where I was broken. And and that little fu mom and dad or whatever it was, but just the thought that that place, that house, the house is innocent itself, right? But that's where he felt like he was broken. I'm attributing it to a guy because I'm thinking that it was a guy. I couldn't see a woman out there scratching on the house. But I mean, just the thought of that, the pain of it, and at a certain point, this still walking around with that crusty mud that I talked about on him, without realizing, you know what, I can do the work myself. Because if we recognize it didn't start with you, sometimes we are so busy with our thoughts, thinking that we can say, oh, this is what she was thinking when she whooped my butt, or this is what she was thinking when she told me I couldn't go, and this is what she was thinking when blah 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 happened, right? We always think that we know. Oh yeah, I got stories I could tell y'all. Let me see. Where was I at in this? I get so caught up. Okay. So the hallmark of spiritual maturity is that we become intentional with our creative thought. We are no longer only using this power unconsciously, but rather we are directing our minds to a higher plane of reality. Mm. We seek to be a blessing in the world and to be open to receive our own abundant blessing. Yes, yes, yes. So, in what areas, this is what he's asking, in what areas should we direct the power of intentionality and creativity? Here are a couple of clues, he says. Where are you experiencing dissatisfaction and disappointment? Where are you experiencing dissatisfaction and disappointing? What do you identify yourself with, right? What's your measuring stick for your own happiness and for your own worthiness? What's that? There may be a false belief in play that you can identify and release. There may be a false belief in place that you can identify and release. Ooh, also, what would you love to experience? I tell you this, that's why when I open this up, I say, I don't know what this is going to say, but usually it corresponds with what I've said, right? So if you didn't hear how that corresponds, you can go back and listen to this from the beginning. I know I got dips in my energy and in my thoughts, so I'm all over the page. But whatever the case may be, look, you don't have to sit here and listen to this. You can go back and walk away or be watching something else and hear what I'm talking about. So here there may be a false belief in play that you can identify and release, right? Whew. For me, part of that false belief is that I was the ugly duckling of my family. I needed to get beyond that, right? I needed to get past that idea. I needed to embrace me. I needed to see me. Woo, y'all. Oh, goodness, goodness, goodness. But I'll let that, because I talked about that already. Also, what would you love to experience? Listen for the desire of your heart and know that the good you are seeking is seeking you now, waiting on your willingness to create the space to receive it. Mm, period, right? Period. Now, what I want to say to you too is, though, is that sometimes there is something that is holding you in place, right? And maybe that is what's that tether that's holding you in place is what you need to forgive and release so that you can go on to what it is that you're supposed to do. Um, Life wants to be good to you in just the right ways that are perfect for the shape of your soul. Say yes. That's what he says. That was good. That was good. That was good. So the affirmation that he puts with this is I am open to receive my good right now. I create in my mind, in my life, a space for receptivity. I welcome a higher order of experience where my needs are met perfectly and perfectly on time. And so it is. That's good. That's good, y'all. And so I know with me, um, my little dogs. So I know with me there is this needing to complete certain things. If you were to identify what it is that's blocking you from experiencing your highest and best, what is it that you need to bring closure to forgive, to release? What is it? What is it? What is it? Right? What is it that you need to bring you into the space where you are a match for what it is that you desire? And sometimes we got to look at what we're desiring too. Is it worthy of you and your attention and your capabilities? Is it? I mean, I wonder about these things because I know that at times, and I don't want to make this seem like past tense, at times I operate far beneath what my calling is. And so, if that's the case, how do you then bring that up to match with what you know energetically you should be doing? Sometimes we're walking around as cripples because we're trying to get by doing just the bare minimum of what we're doing, what you can do, when the universe is calling you to step into the true you, into your truth, into your true self, into your capabilities. I'm just saying, you know, if the shoe don't fit, don't wear it. I'll say that to you like that, right? If the shoe don't fit, don't wear it. But if it does, then figure out what it is that you need to do, can do, willing to do. And sometimes it's the hard things. Sometimes it's the things that we are most resistant to are the things that we need to do. So this is not just about this is not about money, not about how much you think that you make or what you think your worth is, not about the house that you live in or anything else like that. But I think all of us know that there is a reason, a purpose for us being here on earth. Sit that empty chair in front of you and have a conversation. Invite. You know what? Here's what I have done too. Like, who has a message for me? I sometimes think that I know, oh, it's got to be my mama or my daddy or my grandma. Sometimes it's somebody way back down my timeline. Sometimes it's somebody that ain't even in my ancestral line. Last night, when I was laying in bed, I thought to myself, there's okay, so I don't know if you've ever had this. Maybe most of y'all probably haven't. Somebody has a child they misidentify the father, right? And so for first, let's say 8 years of a person's life, they have a father. And then they find out, oh, what? That's not my dad? Because now there's a paternity test. They find out, oh, that's not my dad. And so, as an 8 year old, your mama tells you, oh, that ain't your daddy, this is your daddy. And then that relationship is severed. And and nobody realizes who all gets hurt in that process, right? I don't know if the full impact of that lands on everybody. But I got when I was falling asleep last night, I got that there was somebody I needed to reach out to. There's somebody I need to reach out to because um, that's a painful experience, and a lot of times that pain keeps you from having the conversations because it's such a tender thing. But as long as you're avoiding that tenderness, that hurt, that pain, you don't get healing. It just sits there as a tender spot. So I don't know, I don't know who else has, stuff. You know, it wasn't, I don't know who else has stuff, but those tender spaces, if we could just decide now, you know what, if I don't heal this, it'll fester. What happens to a dream deferred? It'll fester. Does it crust over? Does it get a scab on it, or does it fester? It festers, y'all. So let's be about the business of healing. Not just putting paint up on something that's already rotten. Let's be about the business of healing. What does that look like today? All right, that's what I got for y'all. It's time for me to go. Blessings to you. I will not be here tomorrow. I will not be here tomorrow. But I will be here on Sunday at 1. And yeah, I'll be here on Sunday at 1, but not tomorrow. So, y'all, I'll be back on Monday early in the morning or whatever, early ish in the morning. And so I hope you have a fabulous, 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 fabulous weekend. And if you think about what I said earlier, like that you got a posse that's traveling with you, that's watching you, um, they ain't interested in your drama, but they may be interested in something else. So, feed your ancestors. Hey, Walker. Peace and blessings to you. Have an amazing weekend, all of y'all. Thank you for being here. And with that, I am going to, hey, girl, I'm, look, my girlfriend is asleep down here, but I'm so grateful to know you as well. Thank you for your beautiful self. All right, I'll see y'all.